You're listening to the Rise Above podcast, the only podcast on the planet with a mission to help you live a free and uncommon life. Here's your host, Greg Smith.
Yes. Welcome. Thanks again so much for joining me. Today, this is the Rise Above podcast, and you are listening to episode number 13. I'm your host, Greg Smith, and I believe if you desire uncommon freedom in business and in life, it starts with creating a champion's mindset from within. So today's episode is going to talk about 5 verbal traits of some of the most powerful people in the world. And I want to start this podcast off by just telling you kind of where I'm at in my life mentally right now. I have a very close network of friends and mentors and business associates and people that I highly respect. I have a great network that supports me and loves me. And where I've been lately, especially with 3 kids, is figuring out what in life is propelling me forward and what's pulling me back. You know, everything in the world comes down to energy, good energy or bad energy. And so I've really been monitoring my energy throughout the day and the way that things make me feel, the way that specific people make me feel when I talk to them, the way that specific, maybe a TV show or series makes me feel, or something I got rid of a long time ago because I started this many years back was the news. You know, the news would make me feel anxious and negative energy, and ultimately I couldn't control what was happening on the news anyways. So I cut that out. Certain things like Facebook feed or certain people that you might follow on your Facebook or certain people that might pop up on your Instagram. I have started to monitor all of those things, and I start keeping a daily record of who they are, what just happened. Do I feel energized after that phone call, or do I feel worse? And so, you know, the thing is, like, you and I know that people can give you a bad vibe. We know that people have quote unquote bad vibes. And what that means is they have bad energy. And so just to give you some context of kind of like why I'm sharing this today is because I want to give you tips that were given to me by an old mentor about a decade ago about five things that you can do today to start cleaning up the way that you speak, the way that you act, and ultimately your energy into the world, because nobody wants to be around. I think you and I can both agree that you don't want to be around negative energy. I don't want to be pulled down. You know, people are either lifting you up on a daily basis or they're either tearing you down. A website that you read is either lifting you up or it's tearing you down. Social media, whichever platform that might be, as a whole is either lifting you up or pulling you down or sucking you in to negative stuff. And so that's why I'm coming today with this podcast to you specifically with these 5 kind of mystical traits that some of the most powerful people on earth adhere to. And I can tell you, after I learned these, I started looking around and noticing that some of the most, who I saw as some of the most, and still do, the most powerful leaders within organizations that I'm a part of, they also adhere to as well. Even though some people don't even know that they're adhering to these laws, but these laws will always affect you. You know, that's the thing about gravity. You don't have to agree that gravity is real, but if you step out the window of a 2nd-story building, you're going to fall because of gravity. And it's the same thing for these laws that I'm going to give you today when it comes down to energy, influence, authority, and power. And if you're looking to lead, and this goes for parents too, you know, a lot of times I talk about leadership and organizations, but the very first organization and leadership role that you have as an individual is to your family. So that's as a spouse, and then it can also be as a parent figure, and then it can be as a grandparent figure. So that alone is an organization and a leadership role that you have. You may have roles within your church. You may have roles within certain organizations. You may have roles where you're coaching kids, as I do, or you may have business organizations like I do as well, where all of these things that I'm going to tell you will adhere to you, and they will make you a better leader and they will allow you to lead people more effectively. And ultimately, it will make it to where people want to be around you more, because many of these I'm constantly still working on, but I know that they're there. And before I knew that they were there, I did a lot of them by default because that was just part of who I was. And so I want to give these to you, and I want to encourage you to truly take inventory of which one of these, if not all, could you increase or become better at doing. Okay. And so these are five traits that all leaders, I believe, have. And these were passed on to me from a mentor, like I said, but I'm going to share kind of my thoughts on them over the past decade. And so the very first one is that a true leader does not gossip. They don't gossip. And you won't catch them gossiping. And you can try to catch them. You can try to gossip with them, and you will find, because I had found this, and I tested it a decade ago when I first started learning this. I tested it with certain leaders. I would try to get them to gossip just to see, and I was like, holy cow, this is actually true. And they always have a very keen way of just kind of slipping around that, changing the subject, or turning your opinion around based upon something that you may be calling or discussing with them in terms of gossip. And so I have a very clear no gossiping guideline. Many people know me very well, know that if you call me and you call to gossip, sometimes I will listen to you if you're one of my very close friends. As you know, sometimes people listen to me because not for gossip. I guess this actually goes for number 2, but gossiping, my closest friends would call it wallowing in the mud, like pigs. I would say, hey, listen, right now, I actually said this on a call the other day with one of my associates. I said, hey, listen, be very upfront with you right now. I feel like I'm wallowing in the mud a little bit. And they were like, you know what? You're right. I'm like, okay, let's just move on. And we did. And I have permission, because people know these ground rules for me, to be able to bring that out with one of my teammates or organizational leaders. And so I did. So number 1 is absolutely no gossip. This is a trait that you can start to incorporate, and it will raise your influence, your authority, your power, your positive energy almost instantly. All right. So no gossiping. Cut that out. All right. Leaders don't do it. They don't participate in it, and they definitely don't allow it. All right. The second one, which this is more of the one where I'll have a friend that might call me and I'll let them unload, or maybe I need to call some of my trusted confidants and I'll unload on them a little bit. And this is complaining. Little to minimal complaining. Now, let me preface this, because the only people that really complain at certain things are people that are losing in certain areas of their life. Because when you complain, you are literally projecting into the world a feeling of the fact that you are dying and that you are helpless. And when survival instincts kick in, people do not want to follow or associate with a complainer. Now, misery does love company. So if somebody is a misery kind of person, they're going to complain with you, which ultimately ends up leading back to number 1, which is gossiping. And we don't want any gossiping. And so complaining, here's the thing, there are things that you can express your opinion on, which may be taken as complaining. And those things are really only things that you cannot control. Hear me clearly. You can only complain about things that you specifically cannot control. If you can control something that you're complaining about, you have no right to do that, because you are complaining about something in which you permit to be in your life. If you're complaining about not having enough money, if you're complaining about a poor relationship that you have, if you're complaining about a work environment that you have, if you're complaining about the way a PTO meeting went or something like that, and you could have done something about it, then I want to encourage you to stop. stop. Do something about it. The only thing that my closest friends allow me to complain about, or I allow them to complain about, is something that they do not have control over. Now, even then, when this does happen, and by the way, the no gossiping, no complaining, you can't do that to anybody you're trying to lead.
Are you someone who wants to live life on your own terms? Do you dream of having more time to spend doing the things you love? Then download your copy of The Freedom Formula absolutely free at www.riseabovepodcast.com. What are you waiting for? Go to www.riseabovepodcast.com to get your free copy of The Freedom Formula.
So I have certain people who I respect who are either mentors, and so I call that complaining up, right? Or I have friends that are in my very, very close circle, and I complain sideways, but I never complain, downwards into an organization, all right? And so even then, when somebody might want to express opinion or complain about something, we still get to the end and we're like, well, what can we do about this? Like, how can I help you remedy this? Or what's something that we can change? So even when somebody comes with a complaint, we're always looking for a solution. And this is key. I will tell you, one of my pet peeves is when somebody comes to me and they want to complain about something, but they don't come, and it's something that they permit into their life, and they don't come with any ideas or solutions to change that situation. Never makes sense to me. So, people either have, this is deep, but people either have a vent list or a change list. So they either have things on their list that they want to vent about, which is complaining, or they have things that they want to change. Oftentimes, if it's something that's actually on their change list, they don't even talk about it, they just change it. They just make a decision, because that is how quick you can make a decision and make a change. But far too often, what really it is it's something that somebody just wants to vent and complain about. And I've had conversations where, people know me, I'm very direct, and I will ask, is this something that you truly want to change? Or is this something you just want to vent about? And if it's something they want to vent about, me no be there. We're going to cut that conversation off and move on. So, number one is no gossiping. Number two is no complaining. Now, let's get into better things here. So those are the two most important things, because when all you do is complain or all you do is gossip, that means you have a poor mindset. It means you have negative energy, and ultimately it means the right kind of people really are not going to want to be around you. There are certain people that I will keep at a double arm's length, because I know if I get into a conversation with them, my energy will be drained. And ultimately, it will be a very negative conversation, because every time I speak with that person, it's a negative conversation. I also have people in my life that can pull out the worst in me, to where, I'm trying to do these things, but they pull me in, and I'll find myself in these conversations that I really don't want to be in and I shouldn't be having. And those are the people also that you have to just cut and keep at an arm's length, because they will drag you down. People will drag you down. And we don't want to be those people. You and I don't want to be those people. And that's why I'm sharing this message today with you. All right. So the next one is, and this is where the fun begins, is when you start to learn how to speak increase into other people. Okay. The most powerful people on the planet are constantly speaking influence or speaking positivity into you, which is influencing you. Okay. And so that is why you will find the people, the pastor that's just very charismatic, or the political leader who seems very charismatic, or just the leader in general that seems very charismatic. If you ever look and you now that you know these and the other two that I'm about to give you, you'll notice that they don't complain, they don't gossip. Maybe they do within their own circle, we don't know. But from our outside looking in, we would think that they don't. And we can almost guarantee that they're always speaking increase into other people, okay? And that means that they're always focused on you. They're always focused on the other person. And so you and I can do this same thing by always focusing on the other person, all right? And so we should always be asking other people questions about themselves, because one thing I'm trying to teach, Sam, is really, and he's still young, but we're diving into this as he gets older, is you really shouldn't be talking about yourself unless somebody asks you about yourself. Okay. So it's okay to talk about yourself when somebody asks you about yourself. And so what I like to do, and what I'm encouraging you to do, is give somebody permission to talk about themselves. Give somebody permission to share what they're excited about. Okay. So speak increase and into other people. Tell people that they can do something. Tell people that their dreams are achievable. Tell people that they can have whatever it is that they want. That's what people need, because deep down inside, people are walking around right now so stinking scared and so anxious. There's a reason that we have big pharma pushing so many psychological meds into the world, is because people are walking around with anxiety, with fear, and they have just these thoughts all the time, and they just don't think it's going to be okay. And so you and I can be the good news merchants and go into the world and tell people, hey, it's going to be okay. Like, it's all right. I'm happy to be alive. We're breathing right now. Thank God for another day, because we're not promised the next one. So let's be present and be happy with right now. Speak increase into people right now, today. Show them what they can be grateful for. Encourage them of whatever it is that they want to do or whatever it is they want to achieve. Be somebody different than what the world is being to people. The world is telling people the sky is going to fall, World War III is going to come, you need to vote in the midterm elections because this is going to happen or this is going to happen. There's so much negativity coming at people, doom and gloom, that you can stand like a lighthouse so quick by just not complaining, not gossiping, and starting to speak increase into other people. All right? Along with that, number 4 is this: a true leader, a great leader, will listen more than they speak. They listen more than they speak. My old mentor would say it's kind of like silent power. Silent power. And there's a gentleman in one of my main organizations that's a phenomenal leader, and he has this silent power where he'll ask you a question, and he stares at you and looks you right in the eyes, and it looks like he's looking into the depths of your soul, but he's talking to you, and you can tell that his focus is on you, and he is listening to you. He's not looking around after he asks you a question. There can be people like walking. You could be, we've been there, like busy streets of Rome, and people going cars, and he's just still looking at you, and he's listening to what you have to say. And that is what great leaders do: is they listen better than they speak, and they're given the opportunity to listen when they're asking the questions and speaking increase into somebody. And you can do this too. You can ask good questions. You can ask things that will get people to speak, which will allow you to hear what their worries, anxieties, or stress or fears are. And that allows you to say, it's going to be okay. It's all good. And you can speak increase into those people. So they listen better than they even speak. Okay. And that's where true connection comes in. True connection comes in by you listening. Now, last but not least, is they make everybody feel safe. They don't lean on other people. They allow other people to lean on them. Now, there's a limit to that, like we talked about with the complaining and the gossiping. They don't allow people to gossip to them or just complain about things that those people are allowing into their lives. My goodness, that is like, whoosh. I will tell you right then, I'll say, Joe, what do you, like, I get that, but you can change that, right? Like, let's talk about a solution. Now, that is, so I'm a problem solve for them, and then I'm going to speak increase into that person. I'm going to make them feel safe by listening and then providing context and letting them know that it's okay. So a true leader creates this environment, which is them, it's their vibes, that people know that they are safe around that person. All right. So to recap and wrap this up, talking about negative energy and positive energy. So always start monitoring what is positive, what's negative in terms of energy that's in your life. This goes for all aspects of your life. But this episode was specifically about showing you these 5 verbal traits that some of the most powerful people in the world possess. And it's no gossiping, no complaining. You speak increase into other people. You listen better than you speak. And you start to make everybody feel safe in a world around them that tells them things are doomed. You will have instant credibility, authority, influence, and power to where you can do good for the world and you can shine your light and change lives. So then go out there this week, kick some butt, start to write these things down and start to take inventory of which ones you may be able to get better at. Maybe it's all of them, maybe it's one of them. All right. And last but not least, if this episode was any value to you, I would love to hear it. And one of the ways that you can let me know is by hopping over to iTunes right now, if you're on the iPad app or on the podcast app, or if you're on Google Play or wherever. But if you drop me a review, I would be ever so grateful. Most importantly, it's not really the 5 stars that you give me. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is feedback. I want to know what you got out of this episode or any other episode. Some people do it by tagging me on Instagram at @TheRealGregSmith. But what I'd love to see is it in the Apple review section. So with that, take care. Until next time, God bless.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.